In the quiet town of Maplewood, nestled between rolling hills and endless fields, life moved at its own gentle pace. It was a place where everyone knew each other's names, where children played outside until the streetlights flickered on, and where summer evenings stretched endlessly into the horizon. Among these children were two best friends, Daniel and Lily. Daniel had sandy brown hair that always seemed a little too messy no matter how many times his mother tried to comb it flat. He had a mischievous grin and an adventurous spirit that often got him into trouble but made him loved by all who knew him. Lily, on the other hand, was quieter, with soft blonde curls that framed her face like a halo. She had a way of listening so intently that people felt truly heard when they spoke to her. Though their personalities were different, they balanced each other perfectly. From the moment they met in kindergarten, Daniel and Lily became inseparable. They spent every waking moment together, exploring the woods behind Lily's house, racing their bikes down dirt paths, or lying in the tall grass imagining faraway lands. Their favorite spot, however, was the riverbank just outside of town. It was a hidden gem, shaded by willow trees whose branches dipped gracefully into the water. The river sparkled under the sun during the day and shimmered silver beneath the moonlight at night. For Daniel and Lily, it was their secret world, a place where anything felt possible. One warm July evening, as the sky turned shades of orange and pink, the two friends sat side by side on the riverbank. Fireflies danced around them like tiny stars come down to earth. The air smelled of fresh grass and wildflowers, and the sound of crickets filled the silence. They had been talking about everything and nothing, school, their families, their dreams for the future, when Lily suddenly turned to Daniel with a teasing smile. "So," she said, twirling a blade of grass between her fingers, "do you think you'll ever get married someday?" Daniel looked at her, surprised by the question. "Married? Probably not," he replied with a shrug. "Why would I want to do that?" Lily giggled. "Well, what if someone really special came along, someone you couldn't imagine living without?" He tilted his head thoughtfully, considering her words. "I guess, maybe. But only if it was someone amazing." She poked him playfully in the arm. "Like who?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, then grinned. "Like you." Lily blinked, caught off guard. "Me? Don't be silly." "I'm serious," Daniel insisted, sitting up straighter. "You're my best friend, Lily. If I had to marry anyone, it'd be you." Her cheeks flushed pink and she looked away, embarrassed, but secretly pleased. "That's ridiculous," she muttered. "We're just kids." "Doesn't matter," Daniel said firmly. "I promise. When we grow up, I'll marry you." For a moment there was silence between them. The fireflies continued their lazy dance, and the river whispered softly in the background. Lily glanced at Daniel, searching his face to see if he was joking. But his expression was completely earnest, his blue eyes shining with determination. Slowly, a small smile spread across her lips. "You can't promise something like that," she said finally. "What if you change your mind?" "I won't," he declared confidently. "I'm never going to forget this promise, Lily." "Not ever." Lily shook her head, still smiling. "Okay, fine. But don't blame me if you regret it later." "I won't," Daniel repeated, crossing his heart with his finger. "I swear." They laughed then, the kind of carefree laughter that only children can muster, and went back to watching the fireflies. Neither of them realized how significant that moment would become, or how much it would shape their lives in the years to come. As the weeks passed, Daniel and Lily continued their adventures, blissfully unaware of the changes looming on the year horizon. Summer faded into fall, and the golden leaves gave way to bare branches. Winter arrived with its icy grip, forcing the children indoors. And yet, even as the seasons changed, their bond remained unshaken. But life has a way of disrupting even the strongest connections. One cold February morning, Daniel's father announced that the family would be moving to California. His job required relocation, and there was no choice but to leave Maplewood behind. When Daniel told Lily the news, she felt as though the ground had been ripped out from under her feet. "No," she said flatly, shaking her head. "You can't go." "I have to," Daniel replied, his voice heavy with sadness. "It's not my decision." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "What about your promise?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "What about marrying me when we grow up?" Daniel swallowed hard, guilt twisting in his stomach. "I meant it," he said quietly. "I still mean it. Just because I'm leaving doesn't mean I'll forget, okay? I'll write to you every week. We'll stay friends, no matter what." Lily didn't say anything. Instead, she hugged him tightly as if trying to hold on to him forever. When they finally pulled apart, Daniel pressed a smooth pebble into her hand. "Here," he said. "Take this, so you'll remember." She clutched the pebble tightly, nodding wordlessly. The next day, Daniel's family packed up their belongings and drove away, leaving Lily standing alone in the driveway, waving until the car disappeared from sight. At first, Daniel kept his promise. Every week he sent letters filled with stories about his new school, the beach near his house, and the strange feeling of being surrounded by palm trees instead of cornfields. Lily wrote back faithfully, sharing updates about Maplewood and assuring him that she hadn't forgotten their promise either. But as months turned into years, the letters grew less frequent. Life got busier for both of them, pulling them in different directions. Eventually, the correspondence stopped altogether. Yet deep down, neither Daniel nor Lily forgot the promise they had made by the riverbank. It lingered in the corners of their minds, a faint reminder of a simpler time, a time when the world seemed full of endless possibilities, and love was as easy as a childhood vow. Years passed, and the memories of that summer evening began to feel like a distant dream. But promises, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, have a way of resurfacing when least expected. And one day, long after they had grown into adults with lives of their own, fate would bring Daniel and Lily back together again, forcing them to confront the weight of those words spoken so many years ago. As the years rolled by, Daniel and Lily grew into very different people, shaped by their own struggles and experiences. Life had taken them far from the carefree days of their childhood in Maplewood. For Lily, life became a series of routines, teaching her second-grade class, grading papers late at night, and tending to her small garden on weekends. She lived alone in a cozy house not far from the riverbank where she and Daniel used to play. Though she had built a good life for herself, there was always a quiet longing in her heart, a piece of her that wondered what might have been. Lily often thought about Daniel, especially on quiet evenings when the world outside seemed to slow down. She remembered his laugh, the way he always had dirt on his knees from climbing trees, and the seriousness in his voice when he promised to marry her someday. At first, she tried to convince herself that those memories were just part of growing up, something all children go through. But as time went on, she realized that the promise Daniel made stuck with her in a way nothing else did. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was something deeper, something she couldn't quite explain. For Daniel, life hadn't been easy. After moving to California, he struggled to adjust to a new school and a new town. His parents' marriage fell apart soon after the move, leaving him caught in the middle of their arguments. The happy family he once knew disappeared, replaced by tension and silence. School became his refuge, a place where he could focus on his studies and forget about the chaos at home. He worked hard, determined to prove himself, and eventually earned a scholarship to college. But even as Daniel excelled academically, he carried the weight of loneliness with him. He missed Maplewood more than he cared to admit. He missed the open fields, the sound of cicadas buzzing in the summer, and most of all, he missed Lily. There were nights when he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, remembering the way she smiled, or how her eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams. He told himself that those memories belonged to another lifetime, but they refused to fade. After graduating from college, Daniel joined the military. It was a decision born out of a desire for purpose and stability. He wanted to belong to something bigger than himself, to find meaning in a world that often felt uncertain. Basic training was tough, pushing him to his limits both physically and mentally. But through the grueling days and sleepless nights, he discovered a strength he didn't know he had. He also learned the value of promises, how important it was to keep your word no matter how difficult the circumstances. During his service, Daniel was stationed in various parts of the world, from deserts to mountains, meeting people from all walks of life. Each experience taught him something new, broadening his perspective and shaping him into a man who understood the importance of loyalty and trust. Yet despite the adventures and challenges, there was one constant in his thoughts: Lily. Her face lingered in his mind, a reminder of the innocence and joy he left behind in Maplewood. Back in Maplewood, Lily's life continued its steady rhythm. She loved teaching, finding joy in watching her students grow and learn. On weekends, she visited her parents, who still lived in the same house where she grew up. They often asked about Daniel, curious if she had heard from him. Lily always shook her head, saying she hadn't. But inside, she wondered if he ever thought about her too. One summer afternoon, while cleaning out her attic, Lily stumbled upon an old shoebox filled with mementos from her childhood. Inside were drawings she and Daniel had made together, dried flowers they had pressed between the pages of books, and the smooth pebble Daniel had given her before leaving Maplewood. Holding the pebble in her hand, Lily felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She sat on the floor, surrounded by memories, and let herself remember the boy who had promised to marry her someday. The years apart had changed both Daniel and Lily in ways they couldn't fully understand. Daniel had grown into a man with a strong sense of duty and responsibility, shaped by the hardships he faced. Lily had become a kind and compassionate woman, dedicated to her work and community. Yet, beneath the surface, they were still the same two friends who had once sat by the riverbank, dreaming of the future. One day, while stationed in Colorado Springs, Daniel found himself thinking about Maplewood more than usual. He wondered what had become of Lily, whether she still lived in the same town, or if she had moved on to bigger and better things. The thought of never knowing gnawed at him, so he decided to write her a letter. It wasn't much, just a few lines asking how she was doing and sharing a little about his life. He didn't expect a response, but he hoped that somehow it would reach her. When Lily received the letter, she was surprised and hesitant at first. She hadn't heard from Daniel in years, and part of her worried that opening the door to the past might stir up feelings she wasn't ready to face. But curiosity got the better of her, and she carefully unfolded the paper, reading his words. "Dear Lily," the letter began, "I hope this letter finds you well. I've thought about you a lot over the years, wondering how you're doing and if you still remember the promise I made to you by the river. I know it's been a long time, but I wanted to let you know that I haven't forgotten. Life has taken me to many places, but Maplewood, and you, have always been in my heart. If you'd like to write back, I'd love to hear from you." Lily read the letter several times, her heart racing with each word. She wasn't sure what to make of it. Was Daniel simply being nostalgic, or did he truly mean what he said? Part of her wanted to ignore the letter, to leave the past where it belonged. But another part of her, the part that still held on to the memory of that summer evening, couldn't resist responding. She sat down at her kitchen table that night, pen in hand, and wrote back. "Dear Daniel," she began. "It was a surprise to hear from you after all these years. I'm doing well, teaching second grade here in Maplewood. I still live close to the riverbank, though it's changed a bit since we were kids. I remember the promise you made, and I'll admit it stayed with me too. Life hasn't been the same without you around, but I've done my best to keep moving forward. I'd love to hear more about your adventures. Take care." When Daniel received Lily's reply, he felt a surge of relief and excitement. Her words were warm and welcoming, proof that she hadn't completely forgotten about him. From that moment on, their letters became a regular exchange. They shared stories about their lives, filling each other in on the years they had missed. Daniel wrote about his travels, the lessons he learned in the military, and the people he met along the way. Lily wrote about her students, her garden, and the changes in Maplewood over the years. Through their letters, they began to rediscover the connection they once shared. Daniel noticed how thoughtful Lily was in her responses, how she always asked questions that showed she truly cared. Lily admired Daniel's honesty and the way he spoke about his experiences with humility and gratitude. Their friendship grew stronger with each letter, bridging the gap of time and distance. One day, Daniel wrote a letter that made Lily pause. "Lily," he began, "there's something I need to tell you. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on my life recently, and I keep coming back to the promise I made to you all those years ago. At the time, I didn't fully understand what it meant, but now I do. I want you to know that I meant every word. If you're willing, I'd like to come back to Maplewood to see you again and maybe talk about that promise." Lily read the letter over and over, her heart pounding. She wasn't sure what to say. Daniel's words stirred emotions she had buried deep inside, feelings she wasn't ready to confront. Yet, at the same time, she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him, the sense that their connection was something rare and special. After much thought, Lily wrote back. "Daniel," she replied, "I'm glad you're taking the time to reflect on your life, and I appreciate your honesty. I won't lie, your promise has stayed with me too. But I need you to understand that a lot has changed since we were kids. If you're serious about coming back, then I'm willing to meet you halfway. Let's see where this takes us." Daniel's response came quickly. "Thank you, Lily. That's all I ask, for a chance to reconnect and see where things go. I'll be there soon." As the days passed, anticipation built within both of them. Daniel made plans to visit Maplewood while Lily prepared herself for his arrival. She wasn't sure what to expect, but one thing was certain. The promise they made as children was about to take on a whole new meaning. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, just as they had promised all those years ago. When Daniel arrived in Maplewood, the town looked both familiar and strange to him. The streets were narrower than he remembered, the trees taller, and the air carried a faint scent of earth and grass that reminded him of his childhood. He drove slowly through the quiet neighborhoods, taking in the changes time had brought. Some houses had been repainted, others had new porches or flower beds. But despite these updates, the heart of Maplewood remained the same. A peaceful, close-knit community where life moved at its own gentle pace. Lily waited for him by the riverbank, the very spot where they had made their promise all those years ago. She wasn't sure why she chose this place to meet him. It felt right somehow, like coming full circle. As she stood there watching the ripples on the water and listening to the rustle of leaves overhead, her nerves began to build. What would Daniel be like now? Would he still feel like the friend she once knew, or would he seem like a stranger? When Daniel finally appeared, walking toward her with a cautious smile, Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. Though he was taller and broader than before, his sandy brown hair still messy as ever, there was something unmistakably familiar about him. His blue eyes sparkled with the same warmth and sincerity she remembered from their childhood. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, unsure of what to say. "Hi, Lily," Daniel said softly, breaking the silence. "Hi, Daniel," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's been a long time." "It has," he agreed, nodding. "You look the same, and yet different." She laughed lightly. "I think we're both different now." They sat down together on the grass, just like old times, though the space between them felt wider somehow. Neither of them spoke for a while, letting the sounds of nature fill the gap. Finally, Daniel cleared his throat. "I wasn't sure you'd agree to see me," he admitted. "After everything, I thought maybe you'd moved on." "I almost didn't," Lily confessed, "but I couldn't ignore the curiosity. I wanted to know what happened to you, to us." Daniel nodded, understanding. "I get it. Honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect either. But being here, seeing you again, it feels like coming home." Lily glanced at him, surprised by his words. "Do you really mean that?" "Yes," he said firmly. No matter where I've been or what I've done, Maplewood and you have always been in my heart." His honesty caught her off guard, stirring emotions she had tried to keep buried. She looked away, focusing on the river instead. "It's funny," she said after a moment. "I spent so many years telling myself that your promise was just a childish thing, something not to take seriously. But deep down, I never stopped thinking about it." "Neither did I," Daniel admitted. "At first, I thought it was just nostalgia. But the more I reflected on it, the more I realized how much it meant to me. That promise wasn't just words. It was a part of who I was back then. And it's still a part of me now." Lily turned to face him, searching his expression for any sign of doubt. "Are you saying you want to keep that promise?" Daniel hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I'm saying I want to explore what it could mean. We're not kids anymore, Lily. We've both grown up, faced challenges, and changed in ways we couldn't have imagined. But if there's even a chance that what we had back then can grow into something real, I want to try." His vulnerability touched her, softening the walls she had built around her heart. Still, she couldn't help but feel uncertain. "What if it doesn't work out?" she asked quietly. "What if we're holding on to something that isn't there anymore?" "That's a risk I'm willing to take," Daniel replied without hesitation. "But I don't think we are. Look at us, sitting here talking like no time has passed. That connection we had, it's still here, Lily. It might look different now, but it's stronger than ever." Lily sighed, torn between hope and fear. "It's not just about us, Daniel. Life is complicated, people change, feelings change." "I know," he said gently, "and I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. All I'm asking is for a chance, to get to know you again, to see where this takes us. If it turns out we're not meant to be, then at least we'll know we gave it our best shot." His words resonated with her, easing some of her doubts. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was worth exploring, even if it scared her. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's try." A small smile spread across Daniel's face. "Thank you, Lily. You won't regret this." Over the next few days, Daniel immersed himself in Maplewood, reconnecting with the town and the people who had shaped his early years. He visited old neighbors, walked through the woods behind Lily's house, and even attended a community picnic where everyone welcomed him warmly. Lily introduced him to her students, who adored him instantly, and showed him around the places she frequented, her favorite cafe, the library, and the park where she often spent her evenings reading. As they spent more time together, Daniel and Lily began to rediscover the bond they once shared. They laughed over silly childhood memories, shared stories about their lives apart, and talked late into the night about their hopes and dreams. With each passing day, the awkwardness between them faded, replaced by a growing sense of comfort and familiarity. One evening, as they strolled along the riverbank, Daniel stopped suddenly and pointed to a cluster of fireflies glowing in the darkness. "Remember these?" he asked, a nostalgic smile on his face. "Of course," Lily replied, smiling back. "How could I forget? We used to catch them in jars and pretend they were fairy lights." Daniel chuckled. "Yeah, until your mom caught us and made us set them free. She said it wasn't fair to keep them trapped," Lily recalled, laughing softly. "She was right, though. They belong out here, lighting up the night." "They do," Daniel agreed, his tone turning thoughtful. "Kind of like promises, huh? They're meant to guide us, not trap us." Lily looked at him, struck by his words. "Is that how you see it? As something guiding you?" He nodded. "Absolutely. That promise wasn't just a childish vow. It was a reminder of what matters most: trust, loyalty, and love. Those things don't disappear because time passes or circumstances change. If anything, they become stronger." His perspective moved her, making her realize how deeply he valued the connection they shared. "You've really thought about this, haven't you?" she asked. "All the time," he admitted. "Especially during tough moments in my life. Whenever I felt lost or unsure, I thought about you and that promise. It gave me hope, even when I didn't think I deserved it." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. "I never knew it meant that much to you." "It did," Daniel said sincerely. "And it still does." As the days turned into weeks, Daniel continued to prove himself, not just through words but through actions. He helped Lily with household chores, joined her in gardening, and even volunteered at the school where she taught. He became a part of her world again, fitting seamlessly into the rhythm of her life. Slowly but surely, Lily began to let go of her fears, allowing herself to believe in the possibility of a future with him. One afternoon, as they sat together under the shade of a willow tree, Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a smooth pebble, the same one he had given her years ago. "I found this in my bag when I was packing for the trip," he explained. "I guess I kept it without realizing it. Funny how some things stick with you, isn't it?" Lily took the pebble from him, running her fingers over its surface. "It's amazing how something so small can hold so much meaning." "Exactly," Daniel said, his voice soft. "Just like that promise. It may have started as a simple vow, but it grew into something bigger over time. Something worth fighting for." Lily looked at him, her heart swelling with emotion. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to truly believe in the possibility of love. Not the fleeting kind, but the kind that endures through time and distance. As they sat there together, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the weight of their shared history, she knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side. The promise they made as children had brought them back together. Now, it was up to them to decide what it would mean for their future. Whatever the outcome, one thing was certain: their journey was far from over. As the weeks passed, Daniel and Lily grew closer than either of them had imagined possible. Their days were filled with laughter, quiet conversations, and shared moments that felt both new and familiar. For Lily, it was as if Daniel had never left. His presence fit so naturally into her life that she couldn't imagine it without him anymore. Yet beneath the surface, doubts lingered in her mind. Was their rekindled connection based on real feelings or just nostalgia? Could they truly build a future together after so many years apart? Daniel, too, wrestled with his own uncertainties. Though he was confident in his feelings for Lily, he worried about whether she felt the same way. He noticed the hesitation in her eyes sometimes, the way she paused before responding to his questions about their childhood promise. He didn't want to pressure her, but he also couldn't ignore the growing desire to make their bond official, to turn their shared history into something lasting. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves swirled around them, Daniel decided it was time to address the tension between them. They were walking through the woods behind Lily's house, a place they had explored countless times as children. The air smelled of damp earth and fallen leaves, and the sound of their footsteps, crunching against the ground, filled the silence. "Lily," Daniel began, stopping under a towering oak tree. "Can we talk about something?" She glanced at him, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Sure. What's on your mind?" He took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I know you've been thinking a lot about us, about what this means. And I don't blame you for having doubts. This is big, and I get that. But I need you to know how I feel." Lily nodded, her heart racing. "Okay. I'm not here because of some vague memory or sense of obligation," Daniel continued. "I'm here because I love you, not just as my childhood friend, but as the amazing woman you've become. You're kind, strong, and full of light, and I can't imagine my life without you in it." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes, though she tried to blink them away. "Daniel, Let me finish," he interrupted gently. "I understand if you're not ready to say the same thing back. Love isn't something you rush into. It's something you feel in your heart. But I want you to know that my feelings are real. That promise we made, it wasn't just a childish vow. It was the start of something deeper, something worth fighting for." Lily looked away, overwhelmed by his honesty. She wanted to believe him, to trust that what they had could grow into something more. But fear held her back, the fear of getting hurt, of losing the friendship they had worked so hard to rebuild. "I care about you too," she admitted softly, "more than I ever thought I would. But what if things don't work out? What if we lose everything?" "We won't," Daniel said firmly. "Not if we face it together. Yes, there will be challenges. Life isn't perfect, and neither are we. But I'd rather take those risks with you than spend the rest of my life wondering what if." His words struck a chord within her, stirring emotions she had buried for years. Slowly, she nodded. "You're right. We can't let fear stop us from trying." A small smile spread across Daniel's face. "Does that mean you're willing to give us a chance?" "Yes," Lily replied, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "But we have to take it slow, okay? I need time to process everything." "Of course," Daniel agreed. "We'll take it one step at a time. Together." Their decision marked a turning point in their relationship. Over the next few weeks, Daniel and Lily focused on building a foundation of trust and understanding. They spent hours talking about their dreams, fears, and expectations for the future. Daniel shared stories about his time in the military, explaining how those experiences shaped his perspective on life and relationships. Lily opened up about her struggles as a teacher, the loneliness she sometimes felt, and the joy she found in helping others. Through these conversations, they discovered just how much they complemented each other. Daniel admired Lily's patience and resilience, qualities he lacked during his younger years. Lily appreciated Daniel's determination and sense of responsibility, traits that reminded her of the boy who once promised to marry her, but now shone through in the man standing before her. Their connection deepened with every passing day, yet Daniel knew he couldn't rush things. He wanted to show Lily, not just tell her how serious he was about their future. So he threw himself into becoming a part of her world, helping her prepare lessons for school, joining her parents for Sunday dinners, and even planting tulip bulbs in her garden for spring. His efforts didn't go unnoticed. Lily's friends and family warmed to him quickly, remarking on how much he seemed to care for her. One evening, as they sat together on Lily's porch watching the sunset, Daniel turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "Do you remember when we used to dream about the future?" he asked. Lily smiled, nodding. "How could I forget? You wanted to be an astronaut, and I wanted to write books. And now look at us," Daniel said with a chuckle. "Life didn't quite turn out the way we planned." "No, it didn't," Lily agreed. "But maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes the best things in life are the ones you don't expect." Daniel reached over and took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Exactly. That's why I want to make new plans. With you. No matter what happens, I want us to face it side by side." Lily squeezed his hand, feeling a surge of hope and gratitude. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to envision a future with Daniel, not just as her friend, but as her partner. Still, she knew they weren't quite there yet. There was one final step they needed to take, a step that would test the strength of their bond and solidify their commitment to each other. The opportunity came sooner than expected. One chilly November afternoon, Lily received an invitation to a wedding in a neighboring town. It was for a former classmate, someone she hadn't seen in years. Though she initially hesitated to attend, Daniel encouraged her to go, offering to accompany her as her date. "You don't have to come if you don't want to," Lily said as they drove to the event. "I know weddings can be awkward." "Are you kidding?" Daniel replied with a grin. "This is perfect practice for when it's our turn." Lily laughed nervously. "Don't get ahead of yourself." But as the ceremony unfolded, surrounded by friends and loved ones, Lily couldn't help but picture herself in the bride's shoes. She glanced at Daniel sitting beside her, his profile illuminated by the soft glow of candlelight, and felt a warmth spread through her chest. Maybe someday, she thought, just maybe. After the reception, as they walked back to the car, Daniel stopped suddenly and turned to her. "Lily," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "There's something I need to ask you. Her heart skipped a beat. What is it? He took a deep breath, his blue eyes locking onto hers. I know we've talked about taking things slow, and I respect that. But I also know what I want. I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I mean every word I've said. Will you let me keep my promise? Lily stared at him, stunned. She had dreamed of this moment for years, but now that it was happening, she wasn't sure what to say. Daniel, You don't have to answer right now, he assured her quickly. I just needed you to know how I feel. Whenever you're ready, I'll be waiting. For a moment, they stood in silence, the cool night air wrapping around them like a blanket. Then, slowly, Lily nodded. Yes, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Yes, I want you to keep your promise. Relief and joy flooded Daniel's face as he pulled her into a tight embrace. Thank you, Lily. You won't regret this. As they drove home, Lily couldn't stop smiling. For so long, she had doubted whether their childhood vow could ever become reality. But now, sitting beside Daniel, she realized that promises weren't meant to trap people. They were meant to guide them towards something greater, something real. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. They both knew that. But with each other by their side, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay in store. Their journey had started with a simple promise made by two children on a summer evening. Now it was evolving into something far more profound, a testament to the power of love, trust, and unwavering devotion. And as the stars twinkled above them, casting a gentle light over Maplewood, Daniel and Lily knew they were exactly where they were meant to be. Together. After Lily said yes to Daniel's heartfelt question, their lives began to change in subtle yet meaningful ways. Though they hadn't set a date or made any official plans, the promise they had renewed between them brought a new sense of purpose to their relationship. For Lily, it was both exciting and terrifying. She found herself thinking about the future more often, about what it would mean to build a life with Daniel, to share not just memories but also responsibilities, challenges, and dreams. Daniel, on the other hand, was determined to show Lily that he was serious about their commitment. He wanted her to feel secure, to know that his feelings weren't based on nostalgia or fleeting emotions, but on something deeper. Every action he took, from helping her grade papers late at night to fixing the leaky faucet in her kitchen, was a small way of proving that he was ready for this next chapter. Despite their growing closeness, doubts still lingered in Lily's mind. Was she rushing into something too quickly? Could their childhood promise really translate into a lifelong partnership? These questions haunted her during quiet moments when Daniel wasn't around. To ease her worries, she confided in her best friend Rachel, who had known her since high school. You're overthinking it, Rachel said one evening as they sat together sipping tea in Lily's living room. It's okay to be scared, but don't let fear stop you from taking a chance. Look at how far you two have come already. But what if it doesn't work out? Lily asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. What if we lose everything? The friendship, the memories, all of it? Rachel placed a comforting hand on Lily's arm. That's a risk no matter who you're with. Love isn't about avoiding risks. It's about being brave enough to take them. And honestly, Daniel seems like someone worth risking for. Her words stayed with Lily long after their conversation ended. They reminded her of Daniel's own advice, that life wasn't perfect, and neither were people. But love meant choosing to face those imperfections together. Slowly, she began to let go of her fears, allowing herself to trust not only in Daniel but also in the strength of their bond. In the weeks that followed, Daniel continued to weave himself into the fabric of Lily's life. He joined her for family dinners, charming her parents with stories of his travels and military service. Her father, a quiet man who rarely spoke much, even opened up to Daniel about his own experiences as a young soldier. Watching them talk, Lily realized how much Daniel respected her family, and how much they appreciated him in return. At school, Daniel became a familiar face among Lily's students. He volunteered to help chaperone field trips and read aloud to the class during story time. The children adored him, giggling whenever he made funny voices while reading or told jokes that left them in stitches. Seeing Daniel interact with her students filled Lily with pride and affection. It was clear that he cared deeply about making a positive impact, not just in her life but in the lives of those around her. One Saturday morning, as they walked through the farmer's market together, Daniel surprised Lily with an idea. "How about we visit the riverbank again?" he suggested. "It's been a while since we've been there." Lily smiled, remembering the countless hours they had spent by the water as children. "Sure, let's go." When they arrived, the riverbank looked much the same as it always had, peaceful and timeless. The willow trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the sunlight danced across the surface of the water. As they sat down on the grass, Daniel pulled out a small notebook from his pocket. "What's that?" Lily asked curiously. "It's my journal," he explained. "I started writing in it during my time in the military. It helped me process everything I was going through. I thought maybe I could share some of it with you." He flipped open the notebook and began reading aloud entries he had written over the years. Some were reflections on his struggles and triumphs. Others were memories of Maplewood and the promise he had made to Lily. As she listened, tears welled up in her eyes. Hearing his thoughts put into words made her realize just how deeply he had cherished their connection, even when they were apart. "Thank you for sharing this," she said softly when he finished. "I had no idea how much you thought about us." "I think about you all the time," Daniel admitted. "Even when I didn't know if we'd ever see each other again, I held on to the hope that someday, somehow, we'd find our way back to this moment." His honesty touched her heart, strengthening her resolve to embrace the future they were building together. That evening, as they drove home, Lily felt a newfound clarity. She was ready to move forward, not because she had all the answers, but because she trusted in the love they shared. A few days later, Daniel invited Lily to join him for a special outing. "Pack a bag," he told her mysteriously. "We're going on a little trip." Curious but excited, Lily agreed. Early the next morning, they set off in Daniel's car, heading toward a destination he refused to reveal. After several hours of driving, they arrived at a picturesque cabin nestled deep in the woods. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, and a wooden sign hanging above the door read, "Willow Creek Retreat." "This is beautiful," Lily said, stepping out of the car and taking in the serene surroundings. "Where are we?" "It's a place I found online," Daniel explained. "I thought it would be nice to get away from everything for a couple of days to focus on us." The cabin was cozy and inviting, with large windows that offered stunning views of the forest. A crackling fire warmed the living room, and a basket of fresh-baked bread and fruit awaited them on the kitchen counter. Over the next 2 days, they explored hiking trails, stargazed under a blanket of twinkling lights, and cooked meals together in the tiny kitchen. It was a peaceful escape, a chance to reconnect without the distractions of daily life. On their final evening at the cabin, Daniel led Lily outside to sit by the fire pit. The air was crisp, and the scent of burning wood mingled with the earthy aroma of fallen leaves. As they gazed at the flames, Daniel reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Lily," he began, his voice steady despite the nervousness in his eyes. "I've been carrying this around for a while now, waiting for the right moment. I didn't want to rush anything, but I also couldn't wait any longer." He opened the box to reveal a simple silver ring engraved with the words, "For Lily, forever." Tears sprang to Lily's eyes as she stared at the ring, its meaning unmistakable. "I promised you a long time ago that I'd marry you when we grew up," Daniel continued. "And now, here we are. I don't need grand gestures or fancy words, I just need you. Will you spend the rest of your life with me?" For a moment, Lily couldn't speak. She looked at Daniel, seeing not just the boy who had once made her a promise, but the man who had kept it against all odds. Then, with a smile that lit up the entire clearing, she whispered, "Yes." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands trembling slightly. They hugged tightly, laughter and tears mixing as the fire crackled beside them. In that moment, surrounded by nature and the quiet beauty of the night, they knew they had found something rare and precious, a love rooted in trust, patience, and unwavering devotion. Their journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. But, as they sat together under the stars, holding hands and dreaming of the future, they were certain of one thing. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side, together. After Daniel proposed to Lily by the firelight at the cabin, their lives began to shift in ways that felt both natural and profound. The ring on Lily's finger served as a constant reminder of the promise they had made and kept through all the years apart. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it symbolized a lifetime of trust, growth, and love. Yet, as excited as they were about their engagement, they knew there was still work to be done before they could fully step into this new chapter of their lives. Back in Maplewood, news of their engagement spread quickly. Friends and neighbors congratulated them warmly, recalling how inseparable Daniel and Lily had been as children. "I always knew you two would end up together," one elderly neighbor said with a wink. "Some promises are meant to last." Lily appreciated the support, but couldn't help feeling nervous about sharing such personal news. She worried that people might judge them for basing their relationship on a childhood vow. Would they think it was foolish or unrealistic? Daniel reassured her, reminding her that their story was unique and that what mattered most was how they felt about each other. To ease into married life, they decided to take things slowly. They spent weekends planning their future, discussing everything from where they wanted to live to how they envisioned raising a family someday. Daniel suggested moving out of Lily's small house and finding a place that felt like home for both of them. After searching for weeks, they stumbled upon a charming cottage on the edge of town. It had a cozy front porch, a sprawling backyard, and even a view of the river in the distance. As soon as they stepped inside, they knew it was perfect. "This is it," Lily said, looking around the warm, sunlit rooms. "This feels like us." Daniel smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "It does. Let's make it ours." With their new home secured, they turned their attention to wedding preparations. Neither of them wanted a big, elaborate ceremony. Instead, they opted for something simple and intimate, a celebration that reflected who they were as a couple. They chose the riverbank, their favorite spot, as the venue. It seemed fitting to return to the place where it all began, surrounded by nature and the memories of their childhood. Planning the wedding brought its own set of challenges. There were decisions to make about invitations, food, and decorations, but through it all, Daniel and Lily worked as a team. They laughed over disagreements about color schemes and compromised on everything from seating arrangements to music playlists. In the process, they learned more about each other's preferences and quirks, strengthening their bond even further. One evening, as they sat together on the porch of their new home, Lily looked at Daniel thoughtfully. "Do you ever wonder if we're rushing into this?" she asked. "I mean, we've only been back in each other's lives for a short time." Daniel nodded, understanding her concern. "Of course I've thought about it. But here's the thing. I don't believe in rushing when it comes to love. What we have isn't rushed, it's been building for years, even when we weren't together. This feels right, Lily, doesn't it?" She paused, thinking about his words. "Yes," she admitted softly. "It does. I guess I'm just scared of messing it up." "We won't," Daniel said firmly. "Not if we keep talking to each other, supporting each other, and remembering why we started this journey in the first place." His reassurance calmed her fears, reminding her that love wasn't about perfection. It was about effort, communication, and commitment. With renewed confidence, she threw herself into preparing for their special day. Finally, the morning of the wedding arrived. The riverbank looked magical, transformed by strings of fairy lights and clusters of wildflowers. A gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming plants, and the sound of birdsong filled the air. Friends and family gathered under a canopy of trees, smiling as they watched Daniel stand nervously at the makeshift altar. When Lily appeared walking down the aisle in a simple white dress, Daniel's breath caught in his throat. She looked radiant, her blonde curls framing her face and her eyes shining with happiness. As she reached him, he took her hands in his, squeezing them gently. "You look beautiful," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you," she replied, her smile lighting up the entire space. You do too. The ceremony was brief but heartfelt. The officiant spoke about the importance of promises not just in weddings but in everyday life. Promises are bridges, he said. They connect us to each other, guiding us through challenges and celebrating joys. Today, Daniel and Lily honor the promise they made as children, proving that true love stands the test of time. When it came time for their vows, Daniel and Lily exchanged words they had written themselves. Daniel spoke first, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. Lily, from the moment I met you, you've been my best friend, my partner, and my greatest supporter. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and you reminded me of the person I wanted to be. I promise to spend the rest of my life loving you, respecting you, and standing by your side no matter what. Lily wiped away a tear before speaking. Daniel, you've taught me that promises aren't just words, they're actions. Through every challenge, every mile between us, you never gave up on what we had. You showed me that love is about choosing each other, again and again. I promise to be your wife, your confidant, and your biggest cheerleader, no matter where life takes us. As they exchanged rings, the guests erupted into applause, cheering for the couple whose love story had come full circle. After the ceremony, everyone enjoyed a lively reception filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt speeches. One of Lily's students even performed a sweet song dedicated to the newlyweds, bringing tears to their eyes. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned shades of pink and orange, Daniel and Lily stood by the riverbank once more. Holding hands, they reflected on the journey that had brought them here, from the carefree days of childhood to the challenges of adulthood, and finally to this moment of unity. I can't believe we're really doing this, Lily said, leaning her head against Daniel's shoulder. It feels like a dream. It's not a dream, Daniel replied, kissing the top of her head. It's real. And it's ours. They stayed there for a while longer, watching the water ripple under the fading light. For so many years, the river had been a silent witness to their bond, a constant presence in a world that often changed. Now it marked the beginning of a new adventure, one they would navigate together. In the months and years that followed, Daniel and Lily faced the ups and downs of married life. There were moments of joy, like buying furniture for their home or planting flowers in the garden. There were also challenges, like balancing work schedules and dealing with unexpected setbacks. But through it all, they leaned on each other, drawing strength from the promise that had guided them since childhood. Their story became a testament to the power of love, not the kind that fades with time, but the kind that grows stronger, deeper, and more meaningful. They proved that promises, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, have the potential to shape lives and create lasting connections. Years later, on another autumn evening, they returned to the riverbank with their young daughter, Emma, in tow. As they watched her chase fireflies in the golden twilight, Daniel turned to Lily with a nostalgic smile. Do you remember that night? He asked, gesturing toward the spot where they had made their promise. Of course, Lily replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. How could I forget? Daniel wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. I'm glad we came back here. It's nice to remind ourselves where it all started. Lily nodded, glancing at Emma, who was laughing as she tried to catch the glowing insects. And to show her that some promises are worth keeping. Together they stood side by side, watching the fireflies dance and listening to the soothing sound of the river. Life had taken them far from the carefree days of their youth, but one thing remained unchanged: their love for each other. It was a love built on trust, patience, and a promise made long ago, a promise that had grown into something extraordinary.